Hey guys, welcome back to We Met at Acme. I'm so excited to be here with sex and relationship expert and current host of the Marriage Pact, Shan Boodram. Hey, Shan.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Lindsey, you know our tie is forever with me because my
Forever.
manager met his wife because of you.
Shout out to Adam. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, so I can always take it out, but
Do it.
their baby is born. The due date is my birthday. How full circle is
Oh my gosh. They should name the baby after you.
that? Literally. It's so cute. I love it so much. For some background, so you've been on the show before, but for anyone who's like a new listener, tell us about Shan. Where are you from? How old are you? What's your relationship status?
Oh my gosh. Age, sex, location. This feels real
ASL, baby.
2002, baby. I'm 38 years old. I've been talking about sex and relationships for over 15 years now, which feels so insane, but very privileged to say as well. I have a career talking about sex, love, dating, relationships out loud. I try to find really incredibly smart people's information and make it as sexy and as palatable and as useful as possible to the average person. And I am really grateful to have watched this space bloom into what it has today, and the relationship sphere and the sex ed and wellness sphere is, what it is today because of the work like people like myself, who back in the day were seen as heathens and terrible human beings. And now we all acknowledge this is a beautiful part of life. And one of the amazing spaces that I get to do the work that I'm doing, that I'm really excited to talk about, is a show called The Marriage Pact that's coming out on the Roku channel August the 4th. And on this show, which actually, let me just start there. Do you know what a marriage pact is?
Yeah, so I actually recently did a poll question asking my listeners if they think that a marriage pact is more platonic or romantic. So I'm curious what you think now being the host of the show. Like before even hosting the show, did you consider a marriage pact when, two friends have this pact platonic or romantic?
It's romantic. It's platonic. It's platonic plus. It's in the middle. That's the whole
Mm-hmm.
point of it, right? It's acknowledging we don't really have it right now. There's something in the way of us really wanting to go there with each other. But what we have here is so good. We'd almost be stupid not to. So if whatever's holding us back is not holding us back in 10 years or 5 years or 5 months, let's really do this thing for real. So I think that's actually a perfect question because it lands smack dab in the middle somewhere. And the concept of the show is that you have people who are in the middle and they're like, okay, do we either move forward and do this thing all the way or do we go back? I mean, the sad truth is, though, you really can't go back once you cross that barrier and you try. The friendship will never really quite be the same. And so you can't try to preserve that. But you can try to make something different. So I think it's a really fascinating social experiment to watch because a lot of people have had a marriage pact. I'm curious if you've had one.
I think when I was like so young, like I feel like when I was 10, like on the, and during
Yes.
recess, like me and a guy were like, if we haven't found anyone else, like, let's get married someday. But it was never like with someone that I actually was dating.
Yes, that's speaks to the ratio on the show. I think only one couple, maybe like a one and a half, a couple of others had like a thing, but it didn't really blossom. But only one couple was genuine exes. Most people, it was, gosh, this is crazy how much we get along. We have such overlap in our values and our long-term goals. We enjoy each other so much. That thing is not really there, or maybe there's something standing in the way of that thing being there. But if we could figure that out, this could really be something.
Yeah. What do you think it is, or like what has it been in the show usually that's been holding the couple back? Is it just like a
Um,
sexual connection?
every couple was different. And I think if we went back and asked you on the playground what it could be a sexual connection, which is weird at 10. Maybe you didn't have that
Yeah.
regardless. But some people, it was they had a mutual friend. So that person, they met because one of the people was dating that other person's friend. So maybe they needed time
Um,
to go by in order for them to get past that. For some people, it was distance. Like we could do this thing, but we just live so far away. So if we can't find someone locally, then let's really try to go over that massive hurdle. And some people, it was like the sexual attraction thing. We had one couple in particular where it was timing. At the time that one person was ready, the other person wasn't. And when the other person was ready, the other person wasn't. So like, okay, well, we obviously can't figure this thing out. Let's set a date that if we're still single, we're just going to say, let's go for it, despite who's dragging their heels at the time.
Do you think that that's smart? Like knowing kind of, you're in a very successful marriage and you know that it has a lot to do with friendship in so many ways. Do you think that that's like, the key ingredient here? It's like if this couple has a good friendship, then, and good communication, then that's kind of like going to work, or so much
I
more?
do think that. I mean, there's so many different ways to define a marriage. And I'm going to say something that's, controversial, but let's keep it real. Very few people realize their full potential in any area of life, right? And we're lucky if you get one. So if you have your dream job, you have your dream family, you live in your dream city, you've found your passion in life, you might not find your 100% dream partner. There is going to be an element of settling that happens somewhere in your life. And that could happen again, like I said, in the home that you live, or the friends that you have, or the family that you were born into. There's an element of acceptance of maybe it's not going to be the best it possibly can be, but it's going to be good enough and I'm going to make the most of it. I do think there's an element of that with marriage pacts. Some people, it's not that. Some people, it is their dream person, but they're self sabotagers. There's trauma that they haven't been able to overcome, or there's a roadblock. One of the couples was an age thing. They really worked well together, but the woman couldn't get over the fact that she was so much older than the dude. So it took her, I mean, I won't talk about it more because they were one of my favorite couples to watch, because it was this thing that she assigned so much meaning to. But when it comes to actually finding a partner who made her laugh, who made her happy, who aligned with her long-term goals, who brought the best in her, she had all those things, but there was this other idea or trope that she had around what a successful partnership could look like and who should be involved that was stopping her from getting to that potential. So in some cases, I think marriage pacts are settling, and sometimes it is setting your intention or your sights on what actually matters when it comes to a marriage for you.
If you had to settle on one of the topics that you just mentioned, so like friends, your partner, your job, like if you had to settle on one of them, what would it be?
It wouldn't be my partner. That's just been everything to me. Finding the person, because I just can't think of anything greater in this world than finding the person who's right for me. It's just so tied to my happy. I could cry. I'm apart from him too, so it's like making me misty just thinking about it. But yeah, I think that that's not something I would settle on. But that's, I do this for a living, and I obviously place a lot of high emphasis on intimacy. So it, oh my gosh, I love my career so much. At this present time, if you honestly ask me, it would be my career. I'm almost like thinking of settling right now because I feel overwhelmed by a lot of stuff.
I mean,
Like
but
opportunities.
settling for you is like thriving for most
I
people.
know. Well, I'm not settling now. So I just
Yeah.
mean like that's kind of one area which I've been an overachiever and I've done great things in for such a long time. And now that I have a family and, there's just a lot of competing things that are happening that I'm like, okay, I put a lot of energy and a lot of self-worth into how well I'm able to perform in this area. And it's a little exhausting at times.
Yeah. And
So
it's also like you prove that in so many ways. Like now, if you were able to do something that makes it work for you, or you could still like be with your family more, it's like, why not?
there's a lot of why nots. I mean, because you want to strive for the best self. I haven't gotten to the peak of the mountain. I still have so much more to achieve. That's a lot of thinking there, but God damn it, Lindsey.
It's so funny. Like I literally will be watching a show. The other day I was watching Too Hot to Handle and you just pop up and it's like, it's amazing. I'm like, I know her. Okay, I have to ask you because I now ask every guest this. What's your favorite romantic gesture?
Ooh. Mm. Oh my God, I don't have an answer to this. Embarrassing. I'm like, what's romance? My favorite romantic gesture. I'm really into, I think it's just, lame as all as it sounds right now. I really just am a words of affirmation girl, which is interesting because I started my marriage words of affirmation being the bottom of my list. That I'm like, I don't need that. I exist online. I get compliments all day long. I'm affirmed constantly. And now I think moving into motherhood, and I'm just in a very hard time. I have two very small kids. One's less than a year and one's 2. So I feel like insecure a lot. Like, am I doing this life thing right? Am I putting my time in the right place? Am I being a good mom? Am I a good lover? Am I enough for anybody? So now when my husband and I had a conversation yesterday, I was driving home in traffic, my kid fell asleep, so I got to have like a silent dialogue with him, and he was just really pouring love into me and pouring affirmations into me, and like that was romance. Like that was what I went home and masturbated to. So that's doing it
Oh,
right
I
now.
love that.
What's
I've
yours?
never heard of masturbating to words of affirmation, but like I'm
Oh,
obsessed with that.
okay, let me tell you something that blew my mind on one of my lovers and friends, which is my podcast, My Baby. One of my episodes, we had Tenariel, who's a singer, a gorgeous, sultry, like once in a lifetime, beautiful human being and beautiful voice. And she was saying that she had sex with this guy, and he was just saying, "You're powerful, you're beautiful, you're worthy, you're made of love, you're lovely, your vagina is God, you are God." And I'm like, yeah, I'll take that over dirty talk. What the fuck
Yeah.
have we been doing? And it was such an interesting thing because that's so basic and rudimentary. The people that we're having sex with should be in awe of us and they should like us, but why don't we express it in that plain language? And why was that such a standout experience rather than the norm?
Yeah, I mean, I like that, but also like it's not that I want to be degraded during sex, but you know how some people like to be the opposite during sex, you know?
Yes.
I almost would be like, oh, he's too obsessed with me. Like I can't masturbate to that, you know?
That's funny. I also can appreciate that. I had a conversation with Dan Savage, and he was like, I like to be
Love him.
objectified during sex. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't like objectified. I like degraded because degraded to me means you acknowledge that I'm up here and you're taking me down. Objectified means like you're just othering me and be like, you're a piece of meat. Like, no, no, I'm a
Right.
queen who in this moment is being a piece of meat, but don't you ever forget
Right,
that
right.
I'm a queen.
Exactly. Exactly. That's so true. Also, so you said something on the first time we recorded that I have repeated so many times, obviously giving you credit because I'm obsessed with it. We were talking about, I was like, talking about how like a lot of women feel insecure because they hear that like this other woman is like crazy during sex and does these crazy stuff. And like, what if they're like more vanilla? And you were like, well, vanilla is a delicious flavor. You remember saying that?
I don't.
It's so true, though. Like, vanilla is such a delicious flavor. I love that. And I always thought about that. And you mentioned, having two kids under two, which is incredible, by the way. Like, I don't know how you did that. That's amazing. Um,
Thanks.
but I want to hear about like sex after that because I imagine it changed for you. Like, what was it like? What was the difference?
Yeah, there's so many answers I could give you to that. There is the positive, in which I had more sensation afterwards. Interestingly, I just felt like A spot stimulation and U spot didn't really work for me before. And then now, like I remember the first time my husband was like giving me like a really intentional like finger job while doing oral. And it was like, I've never experienced these feelings before. So I do feel like it just opened up new potential for pleasure within my body. Definitely shut down my boobs because my nipples are just so sensitive and in pain all the time. So I'm still breastfeeding right now. So it's been 3 years since
Oh
my
my
boobs have been a
God.
part of sex. Really, I've either been pregnant or breastfeeding
Right.
um, for the past 3 years straight. So I'm excited to kind of figure that out. And then like yeah, changes like the bodily changes have been both positive and negative. I actually don't feel alien in my postpartum body the way that many people have. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to offer a different reality to a lot of people, especially those who haven't had kids who feel like there has to be this trade off. I don't feel like I had to make that trade. Even after second kids, I'd wear the exact same clothes and I feel like I look very familiar to how I looked before. But there's changes along the way. All that to say, like, all of this kind of goes into your sex life, right? And your time and your priorities. Um, but also the enthusiasm you have for having sex because you have less things for you. Where if you're single, you probably get to do a lot of self-care. So people ask me that question all the time, like, what's self-care for you? I'm like, man, this is a big hurdle for me because I was always feeling disappointed that I didn't have time for baths and for nails and for meditation. Sometimes self-care for me is being like, bitch, you're doing all right. Keep going. Like, that's all I had that day. So because self-care opportunities are limited, sex becomes more precious for me and it's something more sacred. So I have less sex, but I do feel like the quality of it is different and more intentional. So everything, everywhere, all at once, I think is the short answer for how pregnancy and babies change your sex life. I wouldn't say it's been all for the better. I was watching videos of us having sex before we had kids. I'm like, oh, that looks different. There's a different energy to it that I really like. And watching videos of us having sex after we had pregnant. I'm away from my partner, so I'm watching a bunch of porn right now. And yeah, there's differences, and
Mhm.
neither is better than the other, that they're definitely different and unique and special in their own ways.
Yeah. But like, what if, let's say you're not someone who had a baby, but you just don't feel comfortable in your body, period. How do you enjoy sex? Like with a partner, or if you're single and you're, wanting to sleep with someone for the first time, like how do you do it when you just don't feel sexy in your body?
I think that's a question you have to answer for yourself, but it's an honest answer. When I feel insecure, what gets me to a place of comfort? Um, and I don't mean like confidence, right? Because you can't feel confident. You either are or you're not. So the goal that you're going to move towards is comfort or worthy, right? Like I am enough as I am right now. Could I be better? Do I feel like I'm at my best? No, but I know that I am enough and I'm worthy right now. I actually have an episode of Lovers and Friends coming out next week that I did with Jesse Page. And we talked about the role of insecurities in the bedroom. And I was so torn on this topic because we were discussing whether or not you should come in and say, I feel bloated. So that's where I'm at today. Or if you do what some of us do, which is you have sex, you don't say it because you don't want to make it awkward. And then you hyper focus on avoiding positions or angles that would
Mm,
make it apparent that you are bloated. And I don't really know. So I think that the pathway to a lot of people sometimes is just leaning into their insecurities and letting their partner affirm them that they are worthy, or just at least getting it out of the way so you don't have to spend the entire time trying to do gymnastics so that they don't notice that you didn't shave that day. If I just said it, you already know what it is. Like you get pricked, you get pricked. You consented to the experience. I told you I didn't shave. So I think that identify what and how you have felt your best and try to take out things that are out of your control, right? Oh, I had amazing sex this day because I just got waxed and I was on vacation and I've been working out for 6 weeks, or I got a lot of compliments, like those things that are external and outside of your control. But what was in your control that you did that got you there? I was honest about where I was at, and I invited my partner to engage with me where I was and who I was that day, not a projection of what I thought I should be. That
right.
day, I turned the lights off. And so that made me feel more free to be freaky. That day, I, meditated during it. Whatever those things are, invite those practices in and don't be afraid if they sound a little unconventional. I think that sex should be a place of freedom. And there's so few places that we get to honestly be free, make the sounds we really want to make, the faces we really want to make, lean into ourselves and our pleasure in the way that we really don't get to in our day-to-day lives. So that should be a space where you allow yourself to let loose, and loose looks different on everybody.
Yeah. What, in terms of like, you having sex with your partner, would you say that every time you do, you make out? And if, let's say you don't, like, if let's say you don't, is that a red flag if you just like have sex with not making out? Like, regardless of like morning breath, forget all of that. But like, if you just don't make out, do you think that's weird?
It could be. I mean, I'm a big maker outer and my husband is not, and he never was. Like the partner I had before him, me and him had way better makeouts. We were way better kissing compatibility than I do with my husband. And that's just, I always chalk it up to, he's not a fan, he's not a connoisseur of the craft. He is like, his nickname is like the oral god amongst his friends, which is so fucking bizarre. But his friend made a t-shirt that said oral god on it. He's like, bro, this is kind of weird. Like I don't think I should wear this, but he's amazing at that. And it's the proof is in the pudding of like how he shows up in that role. So I wouldn't say in my particular relationship, making out is like at the top of the things to do. I love doing it. And if I had a partner who loved it as well and who like wanted to do it just as enthusiastically, I'm sure it would be a red flag if we don't. But it's something that I couldn't even like assess if it's like how high up there it is. But fortunately for him, as much as I love it, I like exploration, I like freedom, I like authenticity, I like orgasm, I like foreplay a lot more than I like makeouts. So the thing that he lacks, while it's important to me, it's not like in my top 5 of what makes great sex great.
Yeah, yeah, of course. This is one that I'm really curious about because I dealt with this when I was first dating my now husband. Like, I felt like it took a long time to really like enjoy sex on my end with him, like to have an orgasm. And that's
Yes.
because like my body like needs to get familiar with a new partners. And it's not like that for men. Like they are literally coming like when they don't know you. But for me, like that was it. And so many girls will reach out to me and be like, oh, the sex like wasn't good. Like we did it 3 times. Like that's it, right? And I'm like, wait, no, like it could be way longer. So what do you think? Like, did you experience this? As I mean, I feel like as a sex like expert, you probably had better sex in the beginning, but who knows? Maybe you experienced the same thing. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I love this question because I started out with my husband as fuck buddies, and I really wanted a fuck buddy. That was what I was looking for. So I just come out of a long term, on and off, long distance toxic relationship. And I actually, at the time, was in school for sexology. So I was learning all these amazing things about sex in a dynamic that didn't feel safe in any capacity. So it wasn't sexually explorative. So when I got out of that, I was like, definitely am not ready for an emotional connection. I got a lot of work to do, but God damn it, can I have some fun? So I would be auditioning dudes. I would have them come over. I would wear a sports bra and track pants, play Beyonce, vibe out, make out. If I felt there was a good vibe, we'd go forward. If not, we'd back up. So Jared's one of those people who was like kind of in the mix of that rotation. And I was like, oh, this is the dude that I want to fuck. So we started having sex, and it was specifically like the whole purpose was a sexual relationship. So I was only signing up for this to feel good. And I was getting back into old routines because I was in this long-term toxic relationship, and I'd never really treated myself to amazing sex. I think I'd had orgasms, of course, and I'd figured that out and I'd gone to classes, but great partnered sex at the time. I think I just turned 30. Was something that I wasn't an aficionado at. So lo and behold, I'm here to have sex. I'm here to have great sex. And then I find myself faking orgasms. And the reason was that my partner was going down on me, or Jared was going down on me. And I felt like I was taking too long. And I was still under the
Mm,
conditioning that, okay, well, we have to get to the things that the man's going to enjoy too, because him going down on me is tiring for him. And I'm also getting anxious. Is it even going to be effective for me? So let me just hurry up and just fake it so we can move on to the activities that he's going to enjoy more. And then I was like, maybe time 3 or 4 that I was about to do this. I thought, what would happen if I just didn't fake it and just let it go on for as long as it needed to? If he wanted to come up for air and say, are you almost done? Or what people do when they want you to speed up, like, come for me, then I'd get the hint. But I'm like, why am
hmm
I putting a stopwatch on myself or limiting my pleasure or making it only valid if it leads to orgasm when he's never complaining down there? He's never being like, check, please, are you almost done? So let me just see what's going to happen if I just let the clock run out. And we got there. So I was like, oh, okay. And my partner enjoyed it. So that was a cue for me to be like, it's okay that you're taking a long time. It's okay that you have to explore more, give instruction. It's okay because your partner is excited to be there. And I'm excited to be on this journey with myself. So that was an unlearn that had to happen for me. And a big part of that, I think, is having an enthusiastic, willing partner who is excited to be on your pleasure potential journey at your pace for your body. So 50% of that is definitely you, but half is fucking people who actually like doing it, not just the people who are trying to get to a destination as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's so true because an ex of mine was like the destination fast guy. And he, like, in the beginning, he had more patience for me having an orgasm because it's not a short experience. Like, it takes me a while. And then towards the end of our relationship, he was like, are you going to come soon? And I literally am not kidding. Like, after he did that, I think twice, I never came again in our relationship until like, even like, and then we broke up eventually, but like, I never came again after he said that. It literally ruined everything for me because anytime we had sex after that, I was like, oh my God, if I don't come soon, like, there's my window, like, it's gone. Like,
Yes, and it becomes the hyper focus, and it's like that thing that the my husband has this saying too, like with water, the more you try to grip it, the less that you can retain. You have to cup it and be gentle with it. And so I think sometimes when we try to get to orgasm, we're trying to grip the water and we just watch it slip through our fingers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny though, because I remember like in the beginning, my husband had heard something that he thought was like good advice on like how to get like, your partner to come faster. And I wonder what you think of this because it did not work, obviously. And it was like saying like, don't come, don't come. Like basically saying the opposite. And I was like, oh no, that's like certainly not going to make me. So.
Um, I can get it. I would kind of enjoy that if somebody was like, "Oh my God, I'm loving doing this so much that I don't want it to end." You
Right.
know?
Right.
I could get it. It gives you the permission to be like, "Wow, the person is not trying to get me there." But I understand. But yeah,
Yeah.
case I don't know if that would work for me
It's
either.
like reverse psychology.
I think if it just say you like it. Like, I don't know. I just, kind of going back to positive affirmations and doing it obviously within reason because Lindsay would not be turned on if you were like, you are amazing. But tell me that you think it tastes good. Tell me that you think I'm amazing. Tell me that you love pleasuring me. Tell me that you love my pussy. You love how it looks. You love the shape of it. You love being down there. You love eating. Like, tell me that. I think that that just gives me the space to be like, okay, you're having a good time, so I can have a good time, which is unfortunate that a lot of women work that way. But if you're somebody who is wired that way, I think those words can really go a long way in giving you the space to actually sit back and enjoy it.
Hmm. Another thing that I recently went through is, we had a fertility struggle, and I'm pregnant now, which is awesome. But thank
Congratulations.
you. But it's a
Oh,
fucking journey, and during the journey, sex became like not what it was. And it became like, if we're not having sex to have a baby because I'm ovulating, like you're useless to me. And I obviously never truly believe that, but there are times when you're just like, I'm tired and I only want to do it if we're going to get the result that we both really want. How do you like come back from that?
I had a really great episode actually on Lovers and Friends with Deja Riley, who similarly went through one of the craziest fertility journeys that I have ever heard before and became an expert, as I'm sure you have too. Like when you have gone through this process, the amount of things that you learn about the human body, the woman's body, you're like, we should have known this all along. So it was a
Right.
fascinating education for me. Similarly, I had issues TTC, but 6 months, so I didn't have to go through an intervention, but it was also an educational experience for me to go through that and to learn. But yeah, people don't talk enough about the impacts that that has on a couple's intimate life and their sex life. And I don't have the perfect answer to that question. And that's probably something that I should seek out. But I would love to hear what you did because it was your lived experience.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was like the worst partner during that time in terms of like when it was time to ovulate and that window, I was like, get hard, basically. Like I wasn't like, oh, let me like touch you and ease into it. I was like, are you hard yet? Like, let's go. And like that is the worst to do with a guy. Like that's going to do the opposite. And then yeah, it was really hard for me when it wasn't like that time of the month or that window that we had. I was just like, I mean, I'll have sex, but like I don't even really care. And that just came through. And so like I was just like it came through that I was like, I'll do it for you because like you want it, but like this isn't for me. And I think just like that attitude seeps into like the whole journey, makes it harder and just like makes it not enjoyable. So I guess what we did instead of that, like when we finally got over the hump of that, was just like trying to have sex at like different times, more spontaneous, and not thinking about that. Like because it's really hard when you're just focused on like you're laser focused on that, but there's no real fix except like you have to chill out. It's usually one partner who's like putting that pressure on it, and it is usually the woman. Like you don't really see the man being like, we only have like 24 hours, let's go. Like that's just not as common. I'm sure it happens, but it was really more on me to be like, okay, I can still enjoy my partner when it's not for a purpose.
Yeah, I love that because it's something that you had to come to on your own, and it's not novel advice, right? But it's you're going through, I think it's a big part of it too, is giving yourself the grace to go through something that difficult, because it is difficult when you spend your entire life trying not to have a baby and then you go to do it because you really feel ready and you feel worthy, and it's not easy. It's, I mean, it goes against everything that you've been told that you're supposed to be able to do as a woman. So giving yourself that grace to like be a little bit nutty and to not do things perfectly and to not know how to manage those feelings because they're so foreign and still so taboo. I think that you probably came to the best advice that was anybody's obvious advice, but you had to do it in your time, on your terms, and probably with some other interventions and support to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. And then the last thing that I'm so curious about, because this also plays into the marriage pact, there were like a few situationships on the show. What is your take on situationships? I feel like you're going to say that you're actually fine with them. I hate them, but I feel like you're more open to like the nuances of relationships and like how they begin.
I don't know. I think a situationship happens where we don't know what to call where we are. We've gotten so lost. We're so off the path that we're now in just this like nomad's land. I don't really like that. I'd rather be fuck buddies, friends with benefits, dating in a non-committed relationship, an open relationship, in a commitment, right? Like I'd rather have something that I can put my feet and say, this is where I'm at and this is what we're doing. I think that also is just helpful because relationships are not just between one person, there's social dynamics. And if I don't have a way to clearly socially describe what we have, it puts me in a really awkward scenario. And it makes me constantly defend what we share. And I don't want to do that, right? Like I
Yeah.
want this to be additive to my life in all ways. And if I have to sit you down, because I think it's so tacky when I got to say it's complicated. Like that just lets me know that it's not working well. It dampens my opinion of you, of the person, and of the relationship overall. So it's just not additive. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I'm a big fan of not, you don't have to rush towards a label, but you should have a label for wherever you're at right now, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and say that me and Lindsey are friends. It's my second time meeting you, but I can say that we're colleagues,
Hmm.
right? Oh, hi, Shan and Lindsey. Oh, we're colleagues. We worked together a couple of times. We're both podcasters. Are you guys friends? Not yet. I haven't really met her in person, but I think she's cool. So I can firmly, answer that question. I'm not like, oh, it's complicated between us. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a healthy, clear dynamic. And I think a lot of people enter into relationships without creating a culture of where am I at? And that's because a lot of people feel the pressure to answer where do you want to go, and that's hard. I just met you. I don't know if I want to be your friend yet. I'm not. I don't have that much information yet. But I'm here right now. Where am I at right now? You're the person who I make time for to chat with for an hour at a time in a working dynamic. I don't do this for everybody, so there is something to say about that. So here's where I'm at with you today, and here's what I would call it based on that information. Do I know where I want this to go yet? No, don't have to have the answer to both questions, but I should have the answer to the first one.
Yeah. I love that. And in my mind, we're friends.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna do this fun rapid fire poll question. Okay. Your boyfriend of 2+ years made fun of your orgasm the first time that you came. And he jokingly asked you, did you have an aneurysm? Is that a red flag or just a bad joke?
Yeah, that's an education experience. It's a bad joke for sure.
Mm,
Is it a red flag? Oh man, I mean, I'd be like, if you made that kind of error in terms of like sex positivity and sex
right.
education and liberation, you're probably a few years behind me. Do I want the job of educating you and working through all the layers of shame and guilt that you probably have, which would cause you to do that? I'd have to ask myself that question depending on how important good sex was to me, because that's just an indicator that like we're really on different libraries, let alone different pages when it comes to what good sex means to us. But no, it's not a red flag if the person just like genuinely didn't know and thought that it was kind of funny and cute. And a lot
Yeah.
of people, I had Hannah Berner on the podcast, and she was just saying that like how woven humor is into her sex life as a comedian. Maybe that person in their previous dynamic, that was a part of it, and
Right.
self-deprecation was their humor of choice. So that might just be an education, or it could just be a sign that this person still has so many layers of embarrassment and of shame and of guilt to work through. And that's a lot of work to work on somebody with.
Yeah, that's so true. Your boyfriend will absolutely not even have sex without a condom, even when you're not on your period or not ovulating, because he's so scared of you getting pregnant before marriage. He's 38 and you're 34. Is that a red flag?
I think it's a turn on. I loved it. My current husband just loved condoms and was variety packs and always had them on deck. And I was like, wow, not that you should think this way, but I'm like, even if they had sex with multiple other people, at least I know that my sexual health is going to be prioritized in this dynamic. And there's something sexy about caring about your body and caring about your future and wanting to do something about that, and not letting that fall to the wayside or being risky with it because it matters to you so much.
Yeah. Part
I
of
don't
me
find
is
that to be
like,
a turn off at all.
yeah, part of me is like, is he married? I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, that's if that's your only clue though that he might be
Right,
married, I feel like there
right.
should be other more obvious hints there.
No,
But if
it's true.
that's yeah, that I think that's hot.
Yeah. What's more awkward on iMessage? Sending something that you wish you didn't send or unsending a message?
Oh my gosh, I'd unsend in a moment. I get some unsend sometimes, and I'm like,
Me too, but I'm like, what was it? Like,
I don't mind. I usually just assume that it was just meant for somebody else, and I don't ever
yeah,
think it's something. Yeah,
yeah.
unsend that bad boy quick.
Um, in your current or past relationships, have you accidentally said I love you before the I love you conversation?
Not in my current relationship. I waited for him to say I love you first, and I was very, very strategic about that.
Yeah, I would do the
It
same.
is the wrong term. I didn't even let myself think about loving him until he mentioned that he loved me. I didn't even
Yeah.
like go there. I was like, I enjoy you, I adore you, I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even let myself do that because I'd done it before in the past, and it was just like, I don't know, I didn't like the feeling, which is very immature, I guess, in some ways.
No, I
But
don't think it's immature at all. I think that the man needs to be more sure of that they love the woman more than the woman loves the man for it to work.
yeah, I'm sure it works out both ways. I just didn't like the feeling
Yeah,
of loving somebody out loud before they were sure they're ready to do the same. And I didn't
right,
like, I think a big part of relationships is not just who you date, but it's who you show up as in a dynamic. And I always want to rig the system so I don't become the insecure, awkward, mean person that I can be when I don't feel like my best self and I don't feel confident. So
right.
sometimes those little tricks that I do are even less about like, you got to say it first, and more like, I don't want to put myself in a position to be a shitty human being in this relationship because now I feel weird.
That's such a good way of putting it. He's 30, but he's never had a professional haircut, and his mom is the one who cuts his hair. Red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never successfully integrated with the mom dynamic. I just think it's naturally a competitive role. And I'm in someone who's into open relationships, and that's one level of open that I haven't seen successfully done. I should actually do an episode about that, like the role of mothers and sons and like how you can
Yes.
positively. It's hard to do because when you're with a man, the mom is always watching what you do because she's secretly
Mm,
competing with you. So I don't know if
hmm.
I could do it, but you should do it for me and then I'll
Oh my
listen.
God. No, please, please do it. Please do it. I need to listen. Um, if a guy doesn't respond to your message on a dating app, can you message them again or nah?
Nah,
Yeah.
you saw that. If you forgot, I can look for the other organic, different even platform, like on Instagram, you can move to stories if you so do desire. But I'm just pretty big on like, again, preserving my right to feel confident. And if I have to double message you, the way that I'm going to show up, even if you do come up afterwards, is with a sense of insecurity and doubt. I'd rather
Right.
just wait for me to cross your mind and you to go to the message, be like, oh my God, I totally didn't even respond to her last thing.
Right. 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 If Kim Kardashian was into you and wanted to date you, would you do it even if you don't date women?
I just feel like, oh my God, the like career person in me, which is the only that's unfortunate. Yeah. I'm like, what an amazing opportunity. It's like dating
Yeah.
Kanye West. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna blow up. Like you're going
Right.
to
Except
be
dating content
everywhere.
now, not so much. But yeah. I know.
You are still gonna happen. I actually would love to interview Julia Fox about her. Like, what an insane experience, right? Like the amount of exposure and attention and awareness that they
Right.
offer is positive and negative, and you'll never. The hard thing is that you'll probably always be known for that, but you'll be
Right.
known by everybody. That's not the
Yeah.
answer to the question. No, yes, yeah, for sure, of course. Yeah, I'd like to be
Yeah.
known.
I know Julia, so I'll introduce you if you actually want to interview her.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
That was what a fascinating time that was. It was
So
insane.
fascinating. That was wild. It's also like COVID. I feel like everyone was like desperate for some sort of story of something happening. Um, this was so amazing. I love talking to you. I could do it all day, but I know you're so busy. Can you leave us with a quote or piece of advice, something we can take away?
Man, what is the most impactful? I'll just say my favorite recipe for all the conversations that we're having right now around what makes a good relationship, fair trade plus mutual advancement. So if you're trying to gauge right now whether the relationship that you're in is a good one, do you like what you're giving and do you like what you're getting? And do you feel like you're moving forward and you're helping the other person to move forward as a result of that? That's a good pairing.
I love it. Where can everybody listen to your podcast and watch you on the Marriage Pact?
Watch the Marriage Pact. It's on the Roku channel, which is free. It's a free app that everybody can download and watch. If you have a Roku, you probably already have that present. It's so much fun. And this is a reality show that's actually real. I'm long been a part of different shows, but as we know, they tend to be less about finding love and more about finding a following, kind of like
Mhm.
dating Kim Kardashian, right? Like the
Mhm.
motivation to be there is this my person? And that's what we're really signing up to watch. We want to watch people do the thing that we all can relate to. So this show is real people with real histories, and you get to watch a dynamic that maybe you fantasized about having when you were 10 years old on the playground, and you get to see it play out amongst people who are truly invested. And it was a joy to make and a joy to watch, and I cannot wait to talk about it with the community.
Awesome. And where can everyone listen to Lovers and Friends? It's on iTunes and Spotify.
All the things, wherever you're at right now, just go ahead and type in Lovers and Friends. You can find that too. And also listen to our previous episode on We Met at Acme. Yeah,
Yes.
I'd love that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shan.
Thank you.